Hello guys, welcome to a new video of Fischer series. Today we go round number 7 of the Stockholm Interzonal of 962. It's Fischer against Arthur Bisguier, and in this game we see Fischer facing the Alapin Sicilian, in which he closes the center, starts operating on the king side. It's a really nice game, so let's see what happens. Fischer has the black pieces and Arthur starts with e4. And against e4, Fischer almost always played the Sicilian with c5. And now c3 by Arthur, the Alapin Sicilian. And the Alapin is a good opening if you are an e4 player and you face the Sicilian, in which you don't want to go into a lot of theory like the Najdorf or other heavy variations. And usually against the Alapin, black plays knight f6 or d5, those are the main moves. Here knight f6 by Fischer, e5, knight to d5 and knight to f3. This is all theory, knight to c6. Here either d4 or bishop to c4 first, but here knight a3 by Arthur. Probably wanted to rotate the knight to c2. So what now? g6, g3, bishop g7, bishop g2. And here we could castle, but then white castles as well and brings his rook to the e1 square and defends this pawn. So first, Fischer plays knight to c7, saying, what are you going to do about this pawn? Well, Arthur plays queen e2, now defending it with the queen and the knight. But also a nice move is knight c4. Well, can we not kick it with b5? Well, after b5, knight to e3, knight takes, and bishop takes. Now the rook is hanging at the end of the line. So that's why knight c4 is a nice move. You cannot play b5. But okay, queen to e2 by Arthur. And now castles. And now Fischer starts attacking the center with d6. d4 by Arthur, c takes, and bishop to g4, pitting the knight to the queen. But Arthur is not really worried. Rook to d1, defending the pawn, and knight to e6, now having a double attack here. And it looks like it's defended twice, but the knight is pinned, so it's only defended by the rook. So we have to do something about it. Queen to e4, attacking the bishop, bishop f5, queen to e1, bishop to g4 again, pinning the knight to the rook. Queen to e4, again repeating the position. So Arthur is basically saying, I'm fine with a draw, Mr. Fischer. But Fischer is not really interested. He takes the knight, and after bishop takes, he now pushes the pawn. Queen has to move. And how he brings his last piece into the game, rook to c8, on the semi-open file. So what now? Well, rook to c8 does allow bishop g4, a really nice move by Arthur, since the knight is now pinned to the rook. So what now? Well, Fischer plays actively, queen to b6, and now bishop takes, pawn takes, and you can see that the center is pretty locked in here. I mean, Fischer doesn't have any edges and pawns to break it open, so he has to play on the king side or on the queen side. Well, after f takes e6, b3 by Arthur, saying I don't want your knight on the c4 square here, and maybe I want to fianchetto my bishop. g5, gambiting this pawn to take the central pawn. Arthur doesn't bite. He plays bishop b2, just finishing his development. Now the rooks are connected, but now rook f5. And after rook to d2, rook c to f8, having some attack here. So what now? After rook c to f8, you can see that in white's camp, the knight is doing nothing here. So we should bring the knight to the king side like this. So the knight goes to c2. h6 now, which is probably the only mistake of Fischer in this game, since after h6, what's the problem with h6? Well, the h-pawn was defending this critical g6 square, and since we only have a dark squared bishop, the light squares are very weak around the king. So logically now the best move for white would be queen to d3, controlling those light squares. But Arthur didn't play queen d3, he played queen to e2. But that allows a really nice move for Fischer. Rook takes f2. Queen takes f2, rook takes f2, and rook takes f2. We gave away 2 rooks for a queen and a pawn. So material-wise it's equal. But didn't we give away some control of the f-file to white? Well, Fischer doesn't really care. He plays g4, fixing those pawns. Bishop goes to c1, wanting to come in here. Well, can we not just take the pawn now? Well, after knight takes, we have bishop to e3, and your knight is pinned to the queen. So that's not possible. Queen goes to b5, bishop to f4, queen to d3, rook to d2, and queen goes to g6. So The first step is done, bringing the queen to the king's side. So what now? Knight e1, h5, and knight to g2. King h7 and rook to e1. So white's pieces are all looking very beautiful here. So how to attack as black? Well, Fischer here plays knight d8, which is perhaps not the best according to the engine because it does allow the rooks to come on the open c file. But now knight h4, kicking the queen, queen to e8, and now the best move would be rook to c1. But we see h3 by Arthur, which is also a fine move, breaking the structure and maybe rotating the knight like this. G takes. And here Arthur perhaps goes into the wrong direction. He should first control the c file and the f file here, but he goes again after the pawn, which just takes too much time. Now knight f7, king takes, and bishop h6. So we have improved our position, and it took your 2 moves to win the pawn back. And now rook c2, but it's a bit too late. Queen to g8, wanting to come in here. What now? Rook f1, queen g4 check, king goes up, and knight g5. And it would be really dangerous if we put the knight here. So bishop takes. And now we could take the knight and just win this pawn. So knight to f3, and bishop goes to e3. Now threatening winning this pawn. Rook goes to e2, so we have some counterplay. If you take it, knight takes, queen takes, we have rook f7 check, and we have some counterplay in the position. So Fischer doesn't take the pawn yet. He goes back with the bishop. And now rook e to f2. Well, rook e to f2 is a nice move. We control the f file, and we cannot prevent the rook coming into f7. So king g8 does prevent the rook coming in here. Knight h4. But the knight's a bit misplaced here. And okay, you can come in here, but now we simply take the pawn. And after rook f7, we can actually indirectly defend this pawn. Well, how can you indirectly defend the pawn? Well, actually with queen to g4. Since if you take the pawn, we have queen to e2 check. You cannot defend with the knight, then you're losing the rook. But if you come in here to g1, then we give a check and we win the rook anyway. And this is actually checkmate in a couple of moves. This is just checkmate. So that's why queen g4 indirectly defends this pawn. A really nice move. Now the rook goes to f3. Queen g5, now defending it directly. Rook goes here, so the queen cannot activate. But now d4. And if you take the pawn, we win your rook. And the pawn is just marching, so you have to do something about it. Knight f3, queen g6, knight h4. And now a really nice finish by Fischer. Queen takes f7. Since after rook takes, king takes, it's 6 pawns against 4 with a bishop and a knight. And this is just completely winning for Fischer. So okay, the game continues a bit with king to g2, d3, king to f2, king to f2, bishop g7, knight to f3, king to g6, king to e3, king comes up, and now Arthur had enough. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You can take the pawn, but then we take this pawn is hanging, and even if you take the bishop, this is just completely winning for Fischer. I really hope you liked this video. If so, please like, subscribe or comment, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.